Okay, so we're on the stump. So first I'm going to go ahead and mix up the fry bread batter. And first is about a cup or so of flour. I just use, like I said, all-purpose flour. Like that. You could use regular granulated sugar. I'm a brown sugar guy. Add about a quarter of a cup of brown sugar or so. I'm just kind of eyeballing this stuff. And then just a pinch of salt. Sorry, I can't talk this morning. I don't like to add too much salt. It's good enough. And just kind of mix it all around in here. Probably need a little bit more brown sugar. Then we can just come through here and start adding our water, just a little bit at a time until we get the right consistency. I like it to where it just barely wants to come off the spoon. There we go. That right there is exactly what we're looking for. So now what we can do is we can use our bucket lid. A little bit of flour on this. Whoops, not that much. A little bit of flour on this bucket lid. Put one of those cakes in there, like that. And if we still think it's a little bit runny, we can just kind of knead it around. So there's one of them. I'm gonna throw a little bit more flour in this cup before I mix it around because it was still just a tad runny. Get all that junk off of there. It's got a good flavor to it, so. Doing this in camp, you're going to get a little bit messy. That's all right though. You can always just wash your hands off with your canteen. Not a big deal. I think those are pretty much good to go. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we're just heating up some grease. This pan has got a dent on the bottom of it. You can kind of tell because it kind of wobbles, but it'll be all right for what we're using it for. A little bit of a bigger stove would be nicer because you can put more stuff on it, obviously, to cook. I'm heating up water for my hot chocolate, and then I'm going to fry the fry bread first, and then I'm going to make the eggs after that because the eggs won't take very long. You can kind of see it starting to brown up. When you start to see it brown up and harden up, that's when you know it's almost finished, obviously. And come through and touch it. It's nice and hard. That's what we're looking for. One right here is done. Pull him off. Put him right here in the bowl. One piece. I probably only needed one piece rather than two. So this one is one to open up. So we'll just let it open up. Fry that bottom part. Got a nice little crust on it. Come through. Toss him on the bowl. That's perfect. Man, that's a nice big yolk on that egg. I have to do the old flip maneuver here. Alrighty, fellas. This right here is a breakfast fit for a king. We got fry bread, eggs, and hot chocolate. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of honey to this fry bread. This honey's a little bit hard, but with this, how hot this fry bread is, it'll thin out a little bit. Alrighty, y'all. The hot chocolate is a little too hot. Had to take my toboggan off because I was getting sweaty. Right into eat some of these eggs right here. There's always a difference between the eggs you get at the grocery store versus chickens that you raise yourself. There's always a difference in the color of the yolk. Typically the ones you'll raise yourself, the yolk is like super dark and rich. And the egg is always really fluffy. Man, that's good. Grab a piece of this fry bread. Hey, I was hungry. Like I've said before in the other videos, we're part of this series. I got a hair or something. Is, people back in the day, pioneers and stuff, they always took food with them to eat. There were two things that they never messed around with, and that was sleeping and then eating. So those were two things they were really serious about. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my breakfast, and I'll get back with you guys. As you can see, it's pretty cold out here, so I'm actually going to try two different methods to bend these into snowshoes. I'm going to use steam bending, which I've used before, and then I'm also just going to heat them up over the fire. So for this though, we need something fairly thin in diameter, because if you get it too thick, especially in this cold weather, it's just going to snap when you start to bend it, and it takes longer to bend than steam bend it. So I'm looking at one. I like this one, but it's got too many knots right here, too many imperfections. I'm looking at one right here, but it looks like it has almost the same stuff right down here towards the bottom. And I want this right around 10 foot tall. It's going to be a modified bear paw snowshoe, so it's going to be a little bit more elongated rather than the normal bear paw snowshoe. So looking at this one right here is not too bad, and it's not dead, it's still green. And it's going to be really hard to get something that is 10 feet tall this diameter. It's not a very easy thing to do sometimes. Typically they're right around 7 or 8 foot tall. So they might end up actually being more like bear paw snowshoes instead of the modified bear paw. So I'm going to cut this off right down here at the ground. This is a little bit bigger around than my thumb. You can use thicker material, but like I said, everything takes longer the thicker the material is to bend. So I'm just going to go ahead with stuff right around the size of my thumb. As you could tell, I don't need snowshoes, right? But this is a project that we may end up doing in the winter skills class, and I want to go ahead and get a pair made. You could see this branch is already fairly flexible, which is what you're wanting. I'm going to cut it off right here. Then cut this right here off. As I said, we did get an ice storm, so a lot of this stuff is starting to kind of melt off, but a lot of it still has a nice layer of ice over it. This wood, along with the sap in the wood, is still going to be pretty hard, which is why steam bending is a good idea for this in the wintertime. So that right there is about what we're looking for. Like I said, it is plenty, it'll be plenty flexible enough to start. And we don't need massive snowshoes. This end right here is a little bit thin, a little bit thinner than I would like it, but I'm trying to kind of work with what I have found out here, and this is one of the best pieces I have found. So we'll go ahead and cut another one that's about the same diameter and definitely the same length. For those of you wondering, yes, this is store-bought fat wood. Don't go hating on me. I try to keep 4 or 5 sticks in my bag with me, so. Nothing fancy, we're just trying to get a fire going, therefore we're using a lighter. So while our fire is starting to get going, we'll move this tripod over this pot. I got some water in it. I've had it for a couple days. It's actually frozen. So I just want to get this heating up enough to where I've got steam coming off of it. And then by the time that this pot is finished, well, has plenty of steam coming off of it, we can start on our other pole. But I think we'll start with this one right here. Pretty good and sturdy. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I am heating up some water that I got from the pond just over yonder. And I want to get this water to where it's steaming. Making a pair of snowshoes, okay? This is going to be the bear paw style snowshoes where it's basically completely round almost. So what I need to do is, in order to bend the wood, I could soak it in water, but it is fairly cold out here. So I want to steam bend it. And steam bending really works better whenever you're actually bending wood than anything else. You can soak it in hot water and it will work fine. But in the wintertime where the wood is harder, steam bending is really the way to go. And the reason for that is because whenever you are steaming something and you got that hot water penetrating, what happens is the pores in the wood or whatever you're steaming open up. Just like when you take a hot shower, your pores will open up. Or if you're walking around in leather boots in hot water, the pores of the boots will open up and they will actually start to get wet inside even though they are waterproof. So steam bending wood is a lot more effective than just tossing it in the creek than pulling it out when it's still cold. Because like I said, that steam will penetrate the wood a lot better where it's hot. As this is sitting here steaming, what I can do is I can pull it off the pot just like this, and I can start to work it a little bit. You don't want to work it too hard. And again, like I said, this is going to take a little while, but it's already wanting to flex a little bit more than it did. And this right here is about the middle, which is what I'm trying to work with right now. Make sure it doesn't split out on me when I go to bend it. We'll work it a little bit. Oops. Put it back over here on the pot. Okay, so we've got our pole right here, and this is the one that I'm going to heat up over the fire. Now, whenever you're making anything that you're going to be bending or steam bending or however you're going to do it, you don't want to take any of the bark off of it because the bark will kind of act as a barrier. That way it doesn't, just snap in half. If you take the bark off the front of this while you're bending it, it's just going to snap in half. You could take it off the back, but you don't want to take any bark off of the front of it. So what I'm going to start doing, I need to make 2 bends on this, because what's going to happen is I'm going to bend this side in and this side in. They're going to overlap, and then I'm either going to put a whipping there or a round lash. So that's the first thing I need to do, is kind of just figure out my measurements. I'm thinking if I bring this in and this end right here and come together, that should be enough. So what I'm going to do is just kind of start melting this stuff off and start heating it up over the fire. We're working on getting this thing bent around, and you can see it's starting to crack right here. That's just the bark. Okay, this is why I like steam bending, is because steam bending will actually moisten the wood and it won't crack near as much. So to prevent this from completely snapping off, I'm going to go ahead and put a whipping right here of bank line, just to give it a little bit extra reinforcement and to make sure that it does not snap off. As you can see, we've got it fairly flexible already, but when I get to this point, you can hear it, that bark starting to strip off. So you want to prevent that. So like I said, I'm just going to put a whipping of bank line right here. So we've got one of our ends bent. Moment of truth for this end. I just put a quick whipping in there, just in case it decides to try to split out. Kind of prevent that. I've got lines going all over this thing to keep it in place. So whenever I bend it over, I'm going to try to get this line right here hooked over the top and then brought around. Put this right here in my belt. Make sure I've got the right line. Please do not break. Whoop. Something's creaking. Again, I'm not trying to lash these 2 things together. I'm just trying to put something right here to where it's going to stay until it gets completely set. And I'll heat it up over the fire like this to make sure that it sets. I'm going to arbor knot this to where it stays right here on the end. And I'm actually going to let this sit for a day or so and let this thing set up before I mess with it anymore, because I want to be sure that this thing is good to go. Again, this is the second set that I have attempted making. The first set snapped on me when I was in the process of doing this right here. So I want to make sure that I do this right this time and that nothing messes up, because I don't want to have to go back and make them again, because it's taken me right around 2 hours or so to steam or to bend these things because it's so cold out here. Now I can come through and just cut this stuff off right here. Cut all that garbage off. Take this off. So far, this is what we're working with. I like having this overlap this much. This is definitely plenty big enough for a snowshoe. So, but like I said, I like having this overlap like this. So what we'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and make the other one, and we're gonna let these sit for about a day or so in the wall tent. We'll get them set up. Okay, everybody. So it's been somewhat of a long day. So I think I'm getting ready to go ahead and hit the hay. It's currently 9:30. Like I said, this is kind of like my first day back. I was out of the wall tent for a couple of days. I have not been keeping a fire going in the stove every night because I have such a beefed up sleep system. I don't really need it. I don't like getting up every 2 hours to feed the fire. So, so tomorrow, I plan on filming a bunch of stuff. We've got a really big day tomorrow, and then I'll have to get those edited and posted up. I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on my social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook. I'll leave all the links in the description box below. And if you like any of the gear that I use in some of my videos, I'll also leave a link in the description box to my Self-Reliance Outfitters influencer page. So with all that being said, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn this lantern out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.